Well, the biggest thing right now is the Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan trade. As you can see, neither player was happy about it. I can understand it. DeMar DeRozan, according to I was watching what was it ESPN, and they talked about how the ownership or the management, and then I read, the ownership talked to him about the future, and then 2 days later it traded him.
Well, I mean, how much faith can I say that I'm going to put in a team that
Just fired it.
just wins however many games, they're tops in the East. Um, their coach gets coach of the year, and just because they get swept in the playoffs after getting coach of the year, you fire him.
That was that was bad. That should have let you know. I think something like that lets you know that
So, how much trust do you put in an organization when you see something like that? Okay, granted, you're not happy that your season, you had a pretty decent season. Uh, you get coach good enough for you to get coach of the year, but then again, you get swept in,
by LeBron James
by
and the
by
Cleveland
LeBron
Cavaliers,
James. I could see if it was some other team, and I understand that
it's frustrating.
it's frustrating and getting swept, but the coach is not out there playing the game.
He can put a. I guess who was it that said it? Dean Smith. I think it was Kenny Smith that said. Dean Smith said, um, "I can draw up a great play all I want to." He said, "I could draw up a great play. I could come up with a great game plan, but I'm not the one out there executing."
Exactly.
He said the players are the ones out there playing. You can sit up there and try to give me credit all day for drawing up a plan or trying to draw up a play or a game plan or whatever it may be, but I'm not the one out there playing. And I think at times they don't give coaches enough credit, but then they give them a little too much credit to where you forget about the players. And in that situation, I think in that that was crazy. I think in that situation it was. I think in that situation it was just a ridiculous situation because it's like, who do you bring in that's better?
Well, so
What's out there better
so
than
tell
them?
me this, okay? You get swept by LeBron,
By the Cavaliers.
by the
We can't stop
Cavaliers,
saying.
by the Cavaliers. You
Yeah.
know, with LeBron. Okay, LeBron goes to the finals against Golden State
Yeah.
and gets swept.
Okay.
Did Cleveland fire their coach?
I never really trip about firing a coach, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Ty Lue showed me, in my opinion, there was an inability. Either number one, your pride got in the way, or number two, somebody else was controlling your decision on how you handled your roster. Because number one, Green played his tail off in that Eastern Conference Finals
Okay.
when Love was hurt, and then you brought Love back in at the expense of Green. You stayed with J.R. Smith, yet Rodney Hood was the only player on your team other than LeBron that can really get his own shot off. I watched him, and when they finally put him in, and he was the only player that was capable enough to get his own shot off. Now, I don't know what happened with them behind the scenes or whatever happened, and I heard about that, him not wanting to go back in the game, but you have to look at it. Look at how this dude played before he got traded to Cavaliers.
Okay.
He was one of the top players on Utah. And I think he was the starter. One of the top players on Utah. He goes to Cleveland. Something changes. Something happens. Then when they're losing in the finals because of a big error on behalf of J.R. Smith.
Okay.
And then
And that's
you put him
something I
in,
wanna talk
and the
about as
game
well.
that you put him in, he scores. I saw it every time they gave him the ball. He took every person in the Golden State Warrior, anybody that was on it, he took them to the hole with a spin move, something, hit a jumper in their face, or was able to take them, and he was able to get his own shot where J.R. Smith couldn't shoot
So tell
to
me
save
this.
his life.
So tell me this. Okay, so we can get back on Toronto and their coach and that team. So tell me this. when Toronto played Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
did you see any instances where I guess the team had a letdown because the coach didn't prepare them well or something like that? So
But we're
I,
talking.
I say this because okay, you're in a game one of the finals, and you've got the ball, or you've got the ball, or they've got the ball, and you get a rebound. No, actually, Cleveland had the ball and they missed the shot, right? And J.R. Smith gets a rebound, right? And the game is tied. So how is it that before you go out on the floor as a coach, you don't make sure all your players know what the scenario is?
Exactly.
So if you're a coach and your players don't know what the scenario is, at that point in time, at the end of a game, a crucial game, and J.R. Smith, makes the mistake that he makes, then you lose that game where you should have won, and then you end up getting swept.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see that kind of error in the Toronto-Cleveland series,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't recall. But Toronto ends up losing and getting swept, and they get rid of their coach. But you don't get rid of your coach in Cleveland when you could see coaching errors take place. You can see where there was an issue, somewhere, whether it was a head coach or an assistant coach or somebody, they didn't prepare somebody. They didn't say, okay, this is a scenario. We're ahead one, or we're tied or whatever, and this is what we need to do. So if they make the shot, we make this first shot, we're tied. Okay, if we miss the next shot, we need to put the ball up so we can try to win the game, as opposed to running the clock out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to end up going into overtime.
Okay.
So for Toronto for me not to see that type of letdown at the coach level,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that Cleveland outplayed Toronto.
Well,
I think LeBron.
I think it was. I get what you're saying. Well, number one, you got LeBron, who
Right.
is the best player, but I think it was more psychological with Toronto than it was with. Well, I ain't gonna say than it was with anybody. It became psychological because they missed the tip in that would have won the game.
Right.
So once they missed that tip in, it was like they never recovered mentally from what happened because they saw that they had the chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
They let it go. And I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of knew that Toronto could possibly lose that game in the second quarter because Toronto for some reason, could not get the score past a certain point. They were blowing Cleveland out,
Mm-hmm.
and then Cleveland was slowly eating away at the score. And then it was fluctuating. It was up and down. It was 12 points, 8 points, 12 points, 8 points, 14, back down to 8. So by halftime, they were down like maybe 8 to 5 points.
Right.
Because they couldn't take that lead because they were up by almost 20 points or something like that,
Yep.
20-something points. So because they couldn't get it to where they needed to get it, I felt like I felt like Cleveland had a chance to come back. I felt like if Cleveland came back and won that game, I felt like they were going to come back in the second half. And LeBron always controls the tempo of a game. He has that ability. Nobody else can control the tempo. I mean, Golden State controls the tempo of the game as a unit. LeBron single-handedly can control the tempo of the game because of how he manages the game or how he, his style of play. But this is what I'm saying. Watching that, I knew that I felt it in the first half of that game one. But when they missed that tip in and it didn't go in, I knew that it was going to become a psychological issue with Toronto. So off that and back on what we were talking about.
I mean, if that's the case, then I think
And I don't think
you as a player probably need to not be playing.
No, but I've seen things like that. Those are the things. Players are human. I get it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say players don't need to be playing. I think as a whole it became psychological for Toronto. So that's what I'm looking at. Stranger things happen. So no matter what the game plan was, I don't think the coach should have been fired because number one, I don't think he could have mentally got them prepared for them, just because I think the momentum, had they won that game one, it would have gave them a momentum, or maybe I'm not even talking, I don't get into moral victories, but it would have done something to the psyche of the team that would have allowed them, or would have made the series different. So all that being said, I don't think there was nothing the coach could do to prepare them mentally after that mental letdown, after that disappointment, because I think it became psychological. And that happens. I've seen it in all kind of sports where it becomes psychological when you see it and you don't capitalize on it. And then it becomes where now I think it just causes issue. But like I said, that's a whole different subject.
I mean, there's instances where you think, okay, this team has more talent. They're better than us. They've got more talent. They've got the best player, this and that. But you get in situations where, okay, I'm in this game. I'm winning this game. I should win this game because I'm executing better. They're having an off day. So you win that game, and then it gives you some confidence. But then again, if you end up losing a game, I understand that, okay, it gets discouraging because you were up and you should have won. But then it also lets you know that I can play with this team.
Yeah.
I can play with this team. So if I can play with this team, I need to go out there and not make it seem like, okay, the writing is on the wall, so it's just a matter of it's just a formality.
No, it wasn't about the writing on the wall. I just think they couldn't. I just think that it was hard for them to come out of whatever they were in. It wasn't like Derozan gave up or anything like that. Now, granted, a lot of players, like, say, namely, what's his name? He used to play for OKC. Ibaka didn't show up. But it was just something that it does to you psychologically. It's almost like a quicksand effect. Something goes wrong, and you're trying to get out of it, but for some reason, it just keeps going. No matter what you do, no matter what play, you just keep sinking. So I think it psychologically, it was a quicksand effect. All right. Back to what we were talking about on the trade. Okay, so now, number one, they fire their coach. He gets coach of the year. You fire him. You don't know who's going to be better.
Right.
Is there anyone out there better? I mean, there's coaches that are better, but they're on other teams.
Right.
Then your star player, the best player on your team, you tell him you're looking for the future.
Right.
And then you trade him for somebody who you may only have a year, if that. And was it a good trade? Yeah, it was a good trade for a year. It was a great trade for a year when you look at it, because Kawhi Leonard, number one best on-ball defender in the league. He can shoot, he can score, he can guard your best man. He's a dominant player. He's that good. He's a great player. I think the biggest issue, neither one of them are happy with that trade.
Right.
Granted, he didn't want to be in San Antonio. He has his own personal reasons why. Everybody is speculating this. Everybody's talking about he's listening to his people and things like that. DeMar DeRozan didn't want to leave Toronto. I read an article today where he said he wanted to stay and he thought he was going to be staying in Toronto his whole year. But when you look at the microwave mentality in sports today, that's kind of hard. Unless you're Kobe Bryant, unless you're LeBron James or D Wade or Steph Curry or Kevin Durant, teams are not going to try to keep you for the rest of your career.
Right.
Unless you're that dominant or that consistent. DeMar DeRozan was getting there. He was one of the better players in the league. He was one of the top players in the league. If you look at it 1 through 10, he has to be somewhere in there. Maybe he's number 10, as far as the best players in the league. And he's a consistent player. He's really good. He could drive on you. And you've seen his maturation process. Right. You've seen him get better. I don't know what's going to happen. The trade deadline isn't over, so I don't know what's going to happen after that. I think a lot of people are dogging on Kawhi Leonard because of the whole San Antonio thing. In fact, I read an article that was talking about Jordan Brand cuts ties with Kawhi Leonard. My opinion, yeah, I read it yesterday. It said Jordan Brand. It was a report on on MSN. It was an MSN report where they talked about how the Jordan Brand. It says Jordan Brand to cut ties with Kawhi Leonard, which, in my opinion, I don't really care. I don't care if the Jordan Brand cut ties. He could go sign with Nike and go sign with Under Armour or something like that. He's that good. Mm-hmm. And I know once he starts playing again, everybody will see it. He doesn't owe Jordan Brand anything. And you look at it, more kids have died over Jordan Brand than anything. You selling $200 shoes, and my thing is I could care less, whether he doesn't owe them anything. And I also read an article, I guess it was Rachel Nichols from ESPN posted on Twitter how David Robinson said that this is the oddest thing he's ever seen since he's played basketball with the whole Kawhi Leonard thing. And she said something about Kawhi Leonard. As a matter of fact, hold on one second. It said, the article said, let me go back to it. Give me a second.
I don't know. I didn't see that article, and I don't know, how in depth he went into discussing that. But from the outside looking in, especially if you've got a history like David Robinson has, Tim Duncan has with San Antonio, even just looking at the team, it is kind of odd. But that's not to say that he's not justified in not wanting to go back, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
But just based upon what you've seen in the throughout the years with San Antonio, it does seem kind of weird. But at the end of the day, we don't know what the reasoning was that he didn't want to play for San Antonio again. It was even surprising to me that Tony Parker left and went someplace else after a Hall of Fame career per se with San Antonio.
That Tony Parker thing kind of reminded me of the whole Emmitt Smith thing. I felt like Emmitt Smith should have never left Dallas and had to go to Arizona. They should have allowed him to finish his career out in Dallas like that. So with Tony Parker, I couldn't understand the whole trade anyway. Yeah. But with Kawhi Leonard, number one, we don't know his injury. Nobody knows their body like Kawhi Leonard. Nobody can tell you what your body is doing.
Right.
I thought it was kind of, I don't know what's going on with Pop. Yeah, he's a great coach, but he's not a perfect coach.
Exactly.
So we don't know what happened between Greg Popovich and Kawhi Leonard. People can assume, they can speculate. People can sit up here and try to say they know what's going on in Kawhi Leonard's mind. People talking about the fact that he's not speaking to the media or speaking to anybody about his injury and things like that, or the trade or what happened between San Antonio, like that is hurting him as a player. I don't believe that. I think it's his choice. Exactly. It's his choice if he wants to speak on his injury. It's his choice if he wants to talk about what happened between him and the coach. We can sit up here and try to say, oh, well, his people are getting in the way. Kawhi Leonard is a grown man. He's a grown man.
Right.
And he is going to do what he wants to do. I know a lot of people say, one thing I learned never to tell a woman, never call a woman naive. Never call a grown woman naive, because a grown woman is going to do what she wants to do. Right. A man is going to do exactly what he wants to do. If he doesn't want to play with San Antonio, there's a reason, because you got to look at it. He was a champion with San Antonio. Now all of a sudden he's not wanting to play. He got injured. Dirty play. In my opinion, I still, I think that was a dirty play, but he didn't come back too soon because he knows his body. And then I think when he's ready to tell somebody what happened, that's when he's ready to tell. If he chooses not to, then people could speculate all they want to. That's not going to take away from what people know that he's capable of doing.
And that's the thing. I agree with you that he knows his body better than anybody else. So there's no reason for him to. I mean, if he wasn't ready to come back, then he wasn't ready to come back. If you, as the coach or a doctor for the team, thinks that he should be ready to play, but if something that he's feeling, saying, okay, I'm not ready to play, then they don't know his body. They don't know his body the way he knows it. So until you're ready, I would say, don't play. But on the flip side of it, it's weird because you have an individual that supposedly has been cleared to play, and he's not. And that's not a situation that you typically have seen from players, on the San Antonio team.
Well, let me ask you this. You say on the San Antonio team he was cleared to play, but here's the thing I want to ask you. Let's look at it. Isaiah Thomas was cleared to play. He was also misdiagnosed.
That is true.
So look at what happened to him. Grant Hill tried to come back too early from an ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up injured most of his career, and then you had to look at it. He had staph infection in his ankle and almost died. So, and that was from trying to come back too early. Kawhi Leonard had a hip injury and an ankle injury. I think it was two different injuries.
Right.
I'm not sure if it was hip and ankle or it was his quad. It was his quad and his ankle.
It was a quad.
So, yeah, they're trying to clear him, but if he doesn't feel right, some doctors will misdiagnose members in order to please the team. I really, truly believe that.
Right.
They will misdiagnose. I'm not even certain about all these doctors that are stating that these players need these ACL repairs and stuff like that. I don't know. I understand that, but that's just my opinion. I think that Kawhi Leonard knows his body. I think something happened. I think Greg Popovich and other players calling him out in the media when you need this guy to call him out in the media like that. I thought that was not cool.
Right.
That's your best player. Tim Duncan's not there no more. Tony Parker he's getting older. He's still good. He can still manage a team. Manu Ginobili's getting older. He's still good, but he's getting older. He plays his position well. He can play that 6-man role or whatever it is.
Right.
And he gives the team energy. But Kawhi Leonard is your best player, top to bottom, and you're trying to put him out there on blast. I can understand afterward, maybe at the end of the season or something talking about it, but if you need him during the season, I wouldn't want to do. I would say it made no sense. I thought that was a foul move on their part. I think the organization. Then you get people out here. Bruce Bowen had something to say. Bruce Bowen.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Granted, Bruce Bowen. I don't think it's none of his business. I don't think he should get involved to sit up there and talk about what Kawhi Leonard is doing is wrong. No, that's Kawhi Leonard's choice. So what you're saying, he doesn't have a choice on whether he wants to play? Everybody has a choice. If he doesn't feel up to it, then that's his choice. If he wants, for you to be on the outside trying to get involved, the question is, do you know everything that's going on? Have you talked to Kawhi Leonard, or are you making statements based off how you feel because, that's the Spurs organization? I get it. It's the Spurs family and whatever. But for you to sit up there and criticize Kawhi Leonard or tell him that he's wrong or he's acting real childish or things like that. I saw, who was it? The girl on that show, Wake Up. She always starting issues. She loves to see drama. She sits up there and talks about, I think he's acting like a little girl. Okay. Well, let it, I don't think so. I think he's doing what's best for him. I think he wants out of San Antonio. There's something going on there. We won't know until he says something.
Right.
You're only going to hear one side of the story. And just like most teams, most TV shows, most of the media, they're going to try to vilify him, make him out to be, something that he's not. And then the truth is going to come out. That's what they do. It's his choice.
Well, you're going to have people saying all kind of things because, if you say something and it's something that folks is going to get their attention, it's everybody's looking for that next soundbite. So they're going to say something that gets the attention, whether or not it's true or not. Whether or not you say something that try to get a rise out of Kawhi for him to potentially, break his silence. Everybody's doing something like that, but it's for him to decide whether or not, when and where he wants to say something about this entire situation. And if he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I think the problem with it is there is a lack of communication between both the San Antonio organization and Kawhi Leonard, because if they were on the same page, then you wouldn't have this issue.
Yeah.
Because whether or not I want to play for you another season doesn't mean that we can't sit down and have a discussion and figure out, okay, what our next move is. Because obviously the two sides aren't talking, so they decide, okay, well,
the question
I'm
is,
going to, since you don't want to come back and play, well, we're going to find what the best move for us is, and that's to move you to Toronto.
But the question is, why won't he sit down at the table with him?
That is the question.
And
Only everybody can speculate.
Exactly.
That's all they can do.
So until Kawhi Leonard says why he didn't sit down with them, people could sit up there and they can say whatever they want to. But until we hear from Kawhi Leonard, ain't nothing anybody can say.
Right.
Until we hear from him. And I'm sure when he feels that he's in a safe enough environment to come out with the truth, to where it's not going to be twisted. You're not going to have the sound bites from ESPN, and those people. You're not going to have that until he feels safe enough. Because that's the thing with when people tell their side of the story, or when they want to feel safe in the environment. Right. They don't want to be in a hostile environment, or they don't want to be put out there. Because look, they've already made up their mind. Number one, you got articles being put out there. You got little quotes. You got headlines where you got these same commentators that claim that they love sports, but they're sitting up there and they're putting these headlines out that are trying to vilify players. So why do I understand that comes with the territory, but he doesn't. When he's ready to talk, when he's ready, I tell you this though. All this stuff where everybody act like, well, it's hurting him, or for somebody to report it's hurting him, or the Jordan and them. Who cares if Jordan shoes cut ties with him? Most players, you can't even get most players to come and play for that. I don't care.
What? You can talk about it's hurting him, and I understand that it may be hurting him right now, and the only reason that it's hurting him right now is because he hasn't stepped on the court and played. But as soon as he gets on the court and plays and he's back to the old Kawhi Leonard, nobody's going to have anything to say.
Yeah.
He's going to be that same player that he was before, and everybody's going to be loving him. He's just going to have a different uniform on. Mm-hmm. But you can say what you want to say right now and say it's hurting him now because he hasn't set foot on the court.
And we're, three months away from the NBA season? Right, so I could care less about what people think is hurting, because it's not hurting him with me. It's not hurting him with a lot of people. People are waiting to see how is he going to play. Mm-hmm. But they don't have the voice. People don't have the voice out there. They don't have the platform to criticize him or to say how they really feel. And people don't want to hear how they really feel. They just want to they're waiting. People I've never seen nobody's really sleeping on him. The only people that have things to say are the people on these networks, the people that write these tabloids, the people that write these sports stories. But the fans or the people who love Kawhi Leonard, they're still sticking with him. They're just waiting to see what happened. And most of them want to see him go to the Lakers anyway, because they want to see the Lakers challenge. I want to see him with my Lakers. I'm going to be honest with you.
You know what?
I want to see Kawhi Leonard.
I would not be surprised that after his one season in Toronto that he doesn't end up in a Lakers uniform.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Drake good enough to convince Kawhi to stay in Toronto. It's a lovely city. They got a lot of great things going on there, a lot of good food, a lot of good outdoor things. But that's not where he wants to be. He wants to be in L.A.
He wants to be in La La Land.
L.A. is known for sports.
So he'll be there. But the thing of it is, when he gets on the court and he starts playing, until that point in time, then you're going to have all these other individuals that are trying to get something, have a story, So they're saying whatever they want to say.
Well, he's been my favorite player ever since Kobe Bryant retired. So until
he's a completely different player than Kobe Bryant.
don't matter.
Man.
He's been my favorite player since Kobe
Okay.
Bryant retired. I didn't say he was better than Kobe Bryant.
Well,
Look,
it's not
said
I'm
he's
not
been
saying
my
better
favorite
either.
player.
I'm saying he's to me. He's my favorite player over Kobe Bryant.
Well,
they don't even compare. But then again,
yeah, but
so,
you just saying
I
that
don't
you've
compare
made
the
it
two.
personal. That's probably personal.
I don't compare the
Let's
two.
just be realistic about it, man. Let's just be realistic about it. Come on, let's just stop. We ain't gonna diss
Okay.
on Kobe. We can't
Why
do
not?
that
No,
because
I'm
that
just
makes
kidding.
no sense. Because that's when people gonna know you're
Right.
making it. Come on, unfair.
Look,
Now you're being a
Kobe.
fan. You're being a fanatic
Look,
because it's
I'm
more
not-
personal. Most people that don't like
but the
Kobe
thing
is
of it
personal. But we'll talk about Kobe and LeBron and Michael Jordan at another time
But
because
even
that's
though
the biggest thing.
you
But
can-
I'm talking about just his style of play.
Right.
He plays my style of basketball that I love. Kawhi Leonard is an on-ball defender. I love the way he moves his feet. I love the decisions he makes on offense. I love what he brings to the team. I love he doesn't overdo it. People say, well, he's very humble. Yeah, he is. He's a very humble guy. He's a soft-spoken guy. He lets his game do the talking.
right.
And he is, if you look at it, I'm talking about from top to bottom, out of the better players in the league. When you look at his game, he has an all-around game.
Right.
He has a complete game. There are some players that are great scorers, but they don't have a complete game. Harden can shoot. Yeah, Harden can't play a lick of defense.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You look at it, Durant, there's some holes in his game, but he's a great player. I'm not going to take a great score. I think the holes in his game is his low post game. I think that's where the holes is. So when you look at Kawhi Leonard, he has a full complement, a full repertoire. He can assist, he can shoot, he can score, he can dribble, he can guard your best player. He's a great on-ball defender. We saw what he did to Harden the year before. Oh my God, he completely took him out of the game.
And I don't think when you say there are holes in people's games, and I do see holes in James Harden's game because he doesn't play defense. I don't necessarily think there's holes in Kevin Durant's game. I think he plays to his strength. He doesn't play. He would prefer to shoot that his jumper or maybe take you to the basket as opposed to post you up. Not that he can't do it, but he plays to his strength. Then
I stand corrected because my thing is I think I was just looking at the fact that he is he's so tall
and he doesn't take advantage of that.
And he doesn't take advantage of that. So I take that back. You're right. Durant is playing to his strengths. I was a little unnerved by his move, but that's something we could talk about. But it really doesn't bother me anymore. He's where he fits in. He fits in well. He's a luxury on that team. And granted, it makes it look like the rest of the league is not competitive enough for them, but it is what it is. But with Kawhi Leonard, we'll see.